One of my favorite things that you talk about is calibrated questions, calibrated statements. Can you tell me about when you first realized that these were a really powerful tool to use?
Well, yeah, I mean, I kind of suspected it was going back to this kidnapping where things went bad. I couldn't completely understand how they had gone bad, what we had done wrong, what we needed to do better. And at about the same time, I stumbled across Jim Camp's book, Start With No. And Jim Camp was very much into, he calls them interrogatives, but they're open-ended questions, but he refines the list down. He really sticks to mostly what questions. He doesn't say this per se in his book, and I ended up working with both Jim and his son, and had a great relationship with both of them. And I thought both were brilliant, but he really narrows it down to what questions. So in our kidnapping, I had known that somebody got our hostages on the phone, and that's a proof of life move. And no kidnapping negotiator I worked with had ever gotten anybody on the phone. And I remember thinking at the time, who did it and how did they do it? And so then a couple of months after this had gone down, and I'd run across Camp's book that focused on what and how questions. I'm listening to a drug dealer in Pittsburgh whose girlfriend had been kidnapped. And if somebody in your family has been kidnapped, who do you go to? You go to the FBI, even if you're a drug dealer.
Right. Yeah.
So this drug dealer is driving around Pittsburgh with FBI hostage negotiators in his car. Yeah, it sounded like a joke, right? 3 drug dealers and 2 hostage negotiators walk into a bar.
Yeah.
But, the drug dealer hasn't got all this sophisticated training. And so on his own, he asks a perfect how question. Calibrated question, which is now what we call them. A question is calibrated for effect, calibrated to change the dynamic. And he says to the drug dealer that's got his girlfriend, he says, "Hey, dog, how do I even know she's alive?" And there's this long silence on the other end of the line. You could just feel something getting ready to happen. And a drug dealer on the other end of the phone says, I'll put her on the phone. Now, not only have they just negotiated getting a hostage on the phone, which I have never done up to that point, but it was untrained guys. But the tonality was that the power dynamic shifted completely in that moment. And the guy that asked the how question now had the upper hand. And the guy with the hostage had lost the upper hand, and he didn't know that he lost the upper hand. That was the key. And I remember hearing a couple of years later, somebody said to me, the secret to gaining the upper hand in a negotiation is giving the other side the illusion of control. And I said to myself, that is exactly what we do with how and what questions. We calibrate them so that we will gain the upper hand, and the other side has no idea what we've just done to them. And that was really the beginning of appreciating what those did.
Yeah, I love this kind of stuff, man, because in business, I feel like there's this camp of people who believe that to be a good negotiator, you have to just be the hardest, coldest person in the room. And I love that we talk about this kind of stuff because in those situations, there's a clear loser and a clear winner, and nobody likes to lose. I don't care who you are. And so if you are the kind of person that just bullies people into doing what you want them to do, then that's just going to hurt your reputation long term and prevent you from continuing to be able to do business in the way that you want to do it. However, if you use some of these different tactics and employ them correctly, then you can have the upper hand in a lot of negotiations while letting the other side think that they also got a really good deal. And most of the time, they probably are, meeting in the middle on some sort of not meeting in the middle in terms of the pricing, but meaning that there is an equal value, equal exchange of value. And both sides can leave winners, and you let the other side believe those things with using some of these different tools.